Born in a city in Iowa in 1887, Fred Mortensen had been involved with bad company since he was a boy, ending up violating divine and human laws. He was a true rebel against society, and society punished him by imprisoning him. While awaiting trial, he managed to escape from prison and remained a fugitive for 4 years, until one day, in an attempt to help a companion escape arrest, he was chased by 2 guards who started shooting at him. To avoid the bullets, he climbed over a high wall, breaking his leg. He was assigned a famous Baha'i lawyer, Albert Hall, as his defense attorney, who, in addition to assisting him legally, helped him escape from another prison, that of the Self, by speaking to him every day of Abdu'l-Baha's great love for all his children. Fred would later comment, "I honestly wondered what Mr. Hall meant when he spoke of all this love, the love of God, the love of Baha'u'llah, the love of Abdu'l-Baha, the love of the covenant. I was shocked." Soon his love for the Master won him over to the new faith, which he embraced with great sincerity and enthusiasm. It was a new birth. Since rumors were circulating that Abdu'l-Baha would not come to the east coast of the United States, where Fred was at the time, he could not bear the thought of not seeing him, so he decided to go to Green Acre. Not having the money to pay for such a long journey, he became a vagabond for the love of Abdu'l-Baha. Train rejections were his uncomfortable and dangerous seats, under and on the trains, all the way to Buffalo and thence to New York and Boston. Then came a motorist to New Hampshire, then a boat across the river, and finally a train to Green Acre, where he arrived on the night of August 20th, tired, dirty, a little dazed, but happy. He had with him a letter of introduction from Hall, and the kind Mrs. Kinney offered him a bed to rest in, waking him early the next morning, urging him to hurry if he wanted to meet the Master, and Fred, the ex-convict, wanted nothing more. In the hotel where Abdu'l-Baha was staying, Fred found a large crowd of people waiting to meet the Master. Being one of the last to arrive, he was looking around for a comfortable chair when he heard someone say that Abdu'l-Baha was coming. It was his interpreter, introducing people to Abdu'l-Baha. When Fred's turn came, to his surprise, Abdu'l-Baha looked at him and simply said, "Ah," not even offering his hand to shake. After that journey, and with the feelings he was experiencing, Fred felt very uncomfortable and confused. After greeting several other people in the room, Abdu'l-Baha turned abruptly to Fred and said in a tone that Fred, at the time, seemed gruff, "Sit down," indicating a chair. Although he did not want to do so because there were elderly people standing, he meekly obeyed and sat down. But at the same time, he felt a sense of rebellion at what was happening. Such a welcome after such a difficult journey. The first to enter into conversation with Abdu'l-Baha was a doctor who had written a book about love. After about a minute, Abdu'l-Baha's interpreter returned and said, "Abdu'l-Baha wishes to see Mr. Mortensen." Fred felt almost faint. He was not ready, and in fact, thought he would have to wait a long time, but he had to obey and did so with a strange feeling, wondering what would happen. Abdu'l-Baha greeted him with a smile and a warm handshake. Then he sat him down, and sitting down before him, he said, "Welcome. Welcome, you are welcome." And then, "Are you happy?" He repeated the question 3 times. Fred thought, why does he ask me that so often? Of course, he is happy. Haven't I said so once? Then he asked him where he was from. "Minneapolis. Do you know Mr. Hall?" "Yes, he told me about the cause." "Did you have a good trip?" Of all the questions, this was the one Fred would have liked to avoid. He looked down, but he asked again. Fred looked up at Abdu'l-Baha's eyes, which, like 2 shining jewels, seemed to penetrate Fred's very being. He knew that he knew, and as he answered, he found himself asking what the interpreter was thinking. Perhaps Fred was a little unbalanced. He replied that he had not traveled as those who come to see him usually travel. "How then?" Abdu'l-Baha asked. "I have traveled under trains and on the roofs of trains." "Explain how?" Again, Fred looked into Abdu'l-Baha's eyes, which seemed to shine with a wonderful radiance. It was the light of love, and Fred felt uplifted and much happier. He told of his journey on the trains, after which Abdu'l-Baha kissed his cheeks, offered him fruit, and gently kissed his hat, which had become soiled during the long journey. Later, when Fred was leaving Green Acre, he ran to greet him, but to his astonishment, Abdu'l-Baha ordered him to get into the car with him. After spending a week in his company in Massachusetts, Fred returned home, with unforgettable memories of that wonderful event. A year later, he received the following tablet from Abdu'l-Baha. O enlightened youth, I have received your letter, the perusal of which has brought me the greatest joy, for its contents manifest faith, and its meaning is evidence of steadfastness in the covenant. That journey of yours from Minneapolis to Green Acre will never be forgotten. It will be eternally mentioned in books and historical works. Be then happy that, thanks be to God, you have a heart filled with light, a living spirit, and are animated by the breath of mercy. Mortensen remained ever faithful to his Lord and to the deeper meaning of that magical encounter. He traveled extensively throughout the United States, spreading the cause of Baha'u'llah, and wrote essays on the faith. In 1946, while preparing, with the approval of Shoghi Effendi, to pioneer for Austria, he was struck by illness and passed away on June 13th of that year.